When I exposed the shocking truth behind my mom's bills, an inspiring transformation unfolded. Jenna stared at the stack of medical bills that seemed to multiply every month, a heavy knot forming in her stomach. Each envelope brought a fresh wave of despair, the intricate web of charges twisted like a cruel puzzle. With every line item recited in mechanical font, reminders of her mother's deteriorating health swirled in her mind, pulling at her heartstrings. A nursing assistant by trade, Jenna was no stranger to the healthcare system's labyrinth, but that knowledge felt feeble against the staggering debt haunting her. How could she help her mother when every day brought new hurdles? She was trapped in a nightmare where care and costs clashed violently, pulling her deeper into uncertainty. As she sorted through the bills, each peculiar charge only deepened her unease. Why was she being charged for services she never requested? Just last week, the hospital had billed them twice for the same lab work. As she flipped through the invoices, discontent began to ferment into indignation. She grasped a bill with both hands, a mixture of helplessness and growing frustration boiling inside her. This labyrinthine maze was designed to confuse, and Jenna knew it all too well. The thought of having to choose between taking care of her mother and fighting for financial justice felt suffocating. Unearthing discrepancies felt risky, yet the screams of injustice were drowned out by the deafening silence of her fears. The weight of responsibility clung to her, a heavy coat suffocating her spirit. With each agonizing breath, memories of her mother's frail form flashed before her, a reminder of the love that bound them together. But at what cost? Her heart raced beneath the surface. Questions demanded answers, and she felt panic engulfing her. She recalled Mr. Wilson, the retired attorney who often chatted over the fence, reminiscing about standing up against what was wrong. Could she really risk everything to unravel the mystery behind these bills? Wouldn't he asking for help only jeopardize her already tenuous balance? Before she could think it through, Jenna found herself standing at Mr. Wilson's door the next day, her knuckles hovering uncertainly over the wood, her pulse quickening. The door creaked open and she stepped into a world of faded memories and crackling wisdom. "What's troubling you, Jenna?" he asked, leaning in with vivid interest. Her words tumbled out, urgency spilling over her unease. As he listened, insight glimmered in his eyes, and an unexpected connection formed, a shared fire igniting their determination to fight. Yet, with every step deeper into the murky waters of investigation, Jenna felt the swell of power pushing back. The healthcare institution's legal team felt oppressive, an invisible wall that threatened to choke her voice into silence. No matter how many leads they chased, the suffocating weight of doubt pressed against her chest. Paranoia that her mother might find out, that she might let down the very person she was trying to protect, tightened its grip. Just as despair loomed dangerously close, she found herself in a local diner one rainy evening. An unexpected encounter with a nurse who whispered about witnessing unethical practices pierced through her fog. Hope surged, but with it came the paralyzing weight of dread. Was she ready to confront the swelling mountain of adversity brewing before her? Her mother's health hung at a precarious precipice, and so did Jenna's sense of identity. Was she merely a daughter in a desperate situation, or could she emerge as a voice for others fighting the same battle? Just when her heart steadied on the edge of resolve, a fleeting wave of doubt crested within her. Could one individual really bring change against such a formidable force? As she stood poised to dive deeper into the fray, the question loomed heavy in the air. Would her courageous endeavor expose the shocking truth? Or would the struggle take more than she could give, risking not just her fight but the fragile trust she had built with her mother? The moment Jenna left the diner, thoughts spiraled through her mind as quickly as the raindrops drummed against her windshield. The nurse's hushed warnings echoed within her, bleak realities intertwined with the flickering flames of her determination. Each beat of the wipers felt like a countdown, wrapping around her like an unshakable clock ticking down to a moment of truth she could not escape. What's more, newfound insights lay ready to transform not just her approach but her very essence. Upon returning home, Jenna spread the bills across the kitchen table, transforming their chaotic array into a battleground for her resolve. The embarkation into action injected a surge of adrenaline through her veins. With Mr. Wilson's guidance echoing in her thoughts, she decided to document every charge, forcing herself to articulate the daunting questions into clear demands. What the bills lacked in clarity, she vowed to compensate with meticulous research and tenacious inquiry. Days turned into a blur of probing inquiries, late-night discussions with Mr. Wilson, and unyielding phone calls to billing departments that all felt painfully corporate. Yet with every attempt at clarity, Jenna stifled the rising dread, rising like smoke in her chest. That palpable fear haunted her in the silence of her home. What if she stirred the hornet's nest of unethical practices, only to suffer the same fate that often befell whistleblowers? What if the weight of her investigation compromised her mother's care? Yet, amidst those relentless waves of intimidation, Jenna discovered a flicker of inner strength. Each bill dissected unveiled nuances she never noticed before. Armed with a nursing background, she could recognize terminology and practices that hinted at malpractice. She began to feel invigorated rather than fearful. Her knowledge became an ally, fortifying her resolve to expose the truth. She mapped research wildcards on her wall, connecting dots that illuminated more than financial discrepancies. They revealed patterns of systemic neglect. Her nights grew longer as she immersed herself in articles, legal jargon, and patient testimonials that left her feeling like an advocate hidden beneath the surface of a determined daughter. Signs of a hidden competency began emerging in her, resonating with echoes of Mr. Wilson's faith. However, as she uncovered more, uneasiness sank deeper. Was she equipped to face the shark tank that lay ahead? It was one thing to challenge unprofessional behavior. It was another to tread the perilous waters of corporate retaliation. Doubts wormed their way into her thoughts, whispering insidiously. Yet with each hesitation, a new mantra took root in her mind. Courage partnered with fear breeds resilience. Late one night, Jenna received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, she answered, only to discover it was the nurse who had originally approached her in the diner. The urgency in the nurse's voice fueled a wildfire of anticipation in Jenna's heart. "Meet me tomorrow, I have more information that can't wait," she insisted. Jenna's heart raced, nerves coiling tight as she considered the implications. This conversation could lead toward revelation or chaos, and with that, the stakes would escalate dramatically. How far was she willing to go? Did she dare to seize the advantage or retreat into the shadows for the sake of security? The fluctuating currents of resolution surged within her, but just ahead lay the unknown, an encounter that could tip the scales toward truth, or lead her deeper into treacherous waters. The fog of uncertainty closed around her, drawing her ever closer to a confrontation that would challenge who she was and become the crucible through which her identity would be forged. Would she step into the light, or would the darkness consume her hopes? As Jenna drifted off to sleep, one question loomed larger than the rest. Was she truly prepared to face the architect of the chaos threatening her mother? Jenna woke with a jolt, the morning light piercing through the curtains like the sharp realization of the day ahead. Memories of the nurse's urgent call flooded back, setting her heart racing. Today would demand more than her usual composure. It would require a strategic mind and an unwavering spirit. After a quick breakfast, she rummaged through her notes, organizing the crucial points she wanted to address during the meeting. Confidence wavered in her chest. Could she truly engage in a conversation that might change everything? This nurse had been a lifeline, but now, she needed to navigate the complexities of an unwritten alliance. It was risky. Trust seemed like a fragile glass she had to grasp carefully. Clutching the small notepad, Jenna left her apartment, the air crisp but heavy with expectation. Her mind swirled with questions. What if this nurse had ulterior motives? What if her suspicions about malpractices were unfounded? Yet beneath these fears a newfound determination flickered. It was as if each troubling day ahead pulled her into an expansive narrative, inviting her to step beyond her self-doubts and take charge of her destiny. Walking into the cafe where they agreed to meet, she felt the weight of judgmental eyes and curious glances. Each step toward the table felt magnified, as if she were marching toward a battlefield. The nurse arrived, a woman with a weary yet resilient expression. Jenna could sense her urgency amidst the casual atmosphere. "Thank you for coming," the nurse said, shifting uneasily in her seat. "I know this is a lot to ask, but we need to take back control of what is happening to your mom." Jenna leaned forward, her initial resolve hardening into steel. "What do you know?" she asked, her voice steady despite the thumping in her chest. The nurse, her fingers trembling slightly, laid out a series of documents documenting grievances filed against the same facility Jenna's mother had been under care. Patients have faced negligence billing errors, Unauthorized treatments. It's time someone speaks out. The weight of this revelation pressed against Jenna's mind, firing off a cascade of thoughts. Her mother's condition was not just a personal concern anymore. It was part of something larger. As they discussed specifics, each term unveiled layers of malpractice in both finance and care. Jenna began to realize that the fears gripping her were now overshadowed by motivation. She must investigate further and amplify their voices. However, equally overwhelming was the realization that each answer revealed more questions. How many patients had suffered silent fates, like her mother, and how far was she prepared to go to illuminate these injustices? Parsing through the revelations back at her kitchen table, Jenna felt as if the universe was urging her to act decisively. She meticulously documented each point of interest, but the crux of it all lay heavier. The thought of retaliation lingered like a shadow at the edges of her resolve. For these institutions fortified themselves with power, while she stood alone, poised on the precipice of confrontation. Determination surged again as she revised her earlier defenses. It was time to pivot from a mere investigator to a vocal advocate. But each step toward advocating for her mother meant bracing against the current of a brutal reality. She'd be standing up against a system designed to protect itself. The nascent resolve bubbled inside her. If Jenna proceeded with this journey, it wouldn't solely be for her mother. It would be an endeavor to empower those who had been silenced. But just as the pangs of commitment settled, unease stirred anew. With the stakes amplified and the adversaries growing stronger, time slipped like sand through her fingers. She had yet to grasp the full extent of her inner convictions, yet a profound truth had begun to crystallize. This fight could forge her into something she had never envisioned. As she packed her notes for the day, a message flashed across her phone screen. "We need to talk. It's urgent." Jenna's heart raced yet again. Who else was reaching out, and what revelations awaited? Dread and anticipation coiled within her, as she grappled with what could be the pivotal moment in her unfolding story. Jenna stared at her phone, the notification pulsing like a heartbeat. Who needed to talk urgently, and what implications did this hold? Compelled by a blend of anxiety and curiosity, she opened the message. It was from a former colleague, Jay, someone she hadn't spoken with in months. "Hey Jenna, can we meet? I have something that might help you." A mixture of relief and suspicion washed over her. Jay had once been a reliable source of encouragement during her time in the healthcare industry. Yet, a flicker of doubt crashed into her consciousness. Was this merely a distraction from the mission she had committed to? She glanced at the notes piled on her table, the ones chronicling the nurse's findings and her own personal struggles. Clarifying her trajectory became paramount. Could she indeed broaden this fight beyond her mother? If an ally existed in Jay, would that empower her to expedite her mission, or lead her down another rabbit hole? With new determination settling in her core, Jenna decided to meet Jay. She crafted a simple response, and as she hit send, she realized that small, brave steps were necessary if she were to transform the chaos around her into something constructive. The next day they met in a quiet park, the afternoon sun filtering through the leaves, casting intricate patterns on the grass. As they exchanged pleasantries, Jenna felt a subtle shift. Perhaps this reunion could yield more than just nostalgia. "Jenna, I've been following your mother's case a bit," Jay began, his brow furrowed with concern. "I know how these situations can develop out of control, but what you're doing is important." As he spoke, Jenna found herself absorbing both his empathy and expertise, yet equal measures of fear clung to her. "Do you really think I can make a difference?" she asked, vulnerability cracking her voice. "Absolutely. But you have to lean on your strengths," he advised, leaning closer, his voice lower. "You have a knack for connecting with people. Use that. I've seen you navigate tough conversations." His words ignited something within her, a realization that she could transcend her fears by harnessing her strengths instead of merely looking out for enemies. This new perspective seemed to weave together threads of her past experiences, forming a tapestry of potential. As their conversation deepened, Jay shared strategies on building her platform, emphasizing the significance of properly documenting each grievance she uncovered. "You need to create a narrative, a way to articulate what's happening so it's heard," he counseled confidently. By the end of their meeting, Jenna felt lighter, liberated from the looming cloud of doubt that had settled over her. She returned home with a renewed sense of purpose, energized to channel her frustrations into a framework for advocacy. Each moment that felt potentially paralyzing now morphed into opportunities for growth. Tapping into that energy, she began drafting an outline of her discoveries, a timeline of events, sparking emotions in those affected which would resonate with the broader public. The idea of finding common threads among the neglected, all too relatable stories began to crystallize. But as her momentum built, so did the intensity of unknown repercussions. How would she share these revelations without losing her voice amid the turmoil of repercussions? Could she truly retain her composure when faced with those who had committed such injustices? Standing at the kitchen table later that night, Jenna hesitated, her pen poised above the paper. Each choice she made would forge an uncertain path ahead. But she knew she couldn't look back. Empowerment demanded facing uncomfortable truths head-on. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. This time it was the nurse reaching out. "They're covering their tracks," the message read. "Meet me tomorrow." A shiver of apprehension coursed through her. The stakes were climbing higher, and Jenna realized that whatever challenges came next, she would need to prepare for confrontation. The fear of retribution loomed larger, but so did the transformative potential of her journey. As she gathered her notes, one question loomed over her. Was she ready to finally expose the hidden truths that would challenge the very foundation of the system she was now confronting head-on? Jenna's heart raced as she paced the small space of her kitchen, the message from the nurse pulsing through her mind like a metronome, urging her to action. The words covering their tracks clawed at her insides, provoking both fear and a startling surge of determination. No longer could she stand on the sidelines of her own life, tiptoeing around the edges of this tumultuous battle. She grabbed her jacket, her fingers trembling slightly as she folded the note she had just crafted. Thoughts swirling, what if she stepped into a den of wolves? Yet, there was an undeniable truth shimmering beneath the layers of anxiety. She owed it to her mother and to herself to unearth the depths of this issue, paralleling her resilience with clarity and conviction as she headed toward the meeting point. A small cafe just blocks away, Jenna mentally rehearsed her approach. Every detail mattered. She'd been buried in her research, armed with facts and emotions that reverberated deeply. But this was different. This was face-to-face confrontation. How could she assert her voice without succumbing to fear? Arriving at the cafe, the inviting smells and soft chatter of patrons did little to soothe her nerves. She spotted the nurse, Lila, sitting at a corner table combing through papers. Jenna's chest tightened at Lila's focused demeanor. A silent promise of shared urgency lay in her gaze. "Thanks for meeting me," Jenna began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I heard you have new information about the case." Lila nodded, her expression serious. "I do. It's not pretty, Jenna. They're not just trying to silence your mother's voice. They're trying to erase the evidence." Jenna felt a chill snake down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated. "What do you mean?" she pressed, urgency fueling her inquiry. "They've been shifting funds around, deliberately burying records of complaints. If a loved one brings forward issues, they're categorized as anomalies to be dismissed. Your mother's case? It's one of many." Each revelation deepened Jenna's sense of purpose, turning the ever-expanding dread into raw clarity. She realized this wasn't just about her mother any longer. It was about all those who had been mistreated and silenced. The complexities of the system mirrored the fear lodged in her heart, but she could see the path forming before her. "Then we need to act, Lila. An outline, a timeline, everything you've seen, everything you know. It can be our shield," Jenna asserted, defiance threading through her resolve. Lila studied Jenna, surprise flickering across her face before it transformed into admiration. "You're serious about this, aren't you?" "More than ever. If I'm going to expose this, and I need your support. I can't do it alone." They spent the next hour stitching together a strategy. Documentations were fleshed out, patterns illuminated. Jenna felt the pulse of purpose beat louder with each detail uncovered. A burgeoning sense of authority surged within her as she embraced the very fabric of her mission. But mingled with that rising power was a growing anxiety. She understood that awakening these truths would not only mean confronting a shadowy system, but also the utter chaos that might ensue. Jenna, Lila's tone took on a grave note as they concluded their meeting. "Once you pull this thread, you can't anticipate where it will lead. You understand that, right?" "Yes," Jenna breathed deeply, her heart thunderous yet steady. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment when vulnerability transformed into strength. "But I have to try. I owe it to everyone who feels powerless." As she left the cafe, A mix of exhilaration and terror coursed through her. She clutched her notes, a tangible representation of her commitment to fighting against the forces that had endangered her mother's life. Back at home, Jenna sat at her table again, a transformed woman. The looming dread now felt like adrenaline, fueling her resolve, carving out a new identity rooted in advocacy and truth. She began to type, fingers flying across the keyboard, weaving a narrative that pushed against the very barrier she now understood. But just as she settled into her rhythm, another message buzzed on her phone. "It's bigger than you think," Lila had texted. "Meet me tonight. I have something crucial." Jenna's stomach twisted into a knot. Not only was her journey escalating, but the necessary confrontation loomed closer, time to face whatever consequences awaited her. The stakes had never been higher, and she realized she was standing at the precipice of transformation, ready to leap into the unknown. Would she have the strength to embrace her emerging role as an advocate? Or would the shadows that threatened her mission snuff out her voice before it could fully shine? Jenna barely had time to swallow her apprehension as she headed towards the designated meeting spot. The urgency pressing against her chest was palpable. Lila's cryptic message had ignited her anxiety into a roaring flame. As dusk settled like a thick curtain, she could see the glow of the cafe's fluorescent lights beckoning her. The door swung open with a creak that echoed through the small space, carrying with it the fragrance of brewed coffee and baked goods. Jenna scanned the room with a renewed sense of determination, searching for Lila amid the cozy crowd. When their eyes finally met, a flicker of understanding passed between them, the silent acknowledgement of the impending gravity of their cause. "Let us talk quickly," Lila urged, glancing around as they slid into a booth in the back. "This isn't going to be easy. Just tell me what you know," Jenna pressed, unwilling to let anything deter her focus. Lila leaned in closer, her voice low. "There's a whistleblower from the facility. They've agreed to meet us, but we need to be cautious. It's not just your mother's case at stake, Jenna. They know that someone is digging. I've already risked too much. If they find out I'm involved," her words struck a chord deep within Jenna. The reality of the situation came rushing in. This was more than just her mother's story, it concerned the sheer will to upend a corrupt system that thrived on misery. "We have to go through with this," Jenna interjected firmly, her voice unwavering. "You don't have to face this alone." Lila's gaze softened, moments of fear replaced by trust and camaraderie. "You're stronger than I realized. You've become a force to reckon with." With that comment came a wave of self-reflection. Jenna considered how far she had come, navigating her fears and insecurities to transform into a capable advocate. What was once paralyzing anxiety now accompanied her like an old friend, one she could challenge and ultimately outmaneuver. "Where's the meeting?" Jenna demanded, needing to keep her mind sharp and intentions clear. "An abandoned park near the old community center. It's secluded." The urgency thundered in Jenna's veins as she made the decision this was her opportunity to catalyze change. But it would demand everything she had. They rushed out of the cafe, the cool air hitting their faces, driving them forward as they approached the meeting location. Jenna fought against the flood of self-doubt creeping in. Walking into that park could open a world of truth she had been yearning to uncover, but it could also unravel the very fabric of her life. What if she was making a rational decision that led her into greater danger? "Jenna," Lila interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "You're not just trying to save your mother anymore. You're fighting for justice. Don't forget that." Those words struck Jenna like lightning. She realized she was not merely a daughter, she had morphed into a voice advocating, not just for her mother, but for a multitude of others trapped in shadows. This inner revelation ignited her resolve, anchoring her in a newfound sense of purpose. When they finally reached the park, shadows cast by the immense trees enveloped them. Jenna's heart raced as she scanned the deserted area, searching for any sign of the whistleblower. Every rustle in the leaves felt amplified, every distant sound a reminder of the danger surrounding them. Suddenly, a figure emerged, a hooded individual who approached cautiously, eyes darting suspiciously. "You are Jenna?" the figure inquired, their voice quavering slightly. "Yes, and this is Lila," she replied boldly. "We're here to listen." The figure hesitated but then nodded, revealing a small flash drive. "This contains evidence," they said quietly, urgency lacing their words. "But be careful. They're watching." Jenna felt adrenaline coursing through her, even as dread lingered at the edges of her mind. She had taken steps into a realm of uncertainty, a pathway that could either light the way forward or engulf her in darkness. Gripping the flash drive tightly, she exchanged glances with Lila. Their lives were irrevocably intertwined in this web of fate. The weight of responsibility loomed larger than ever. This was the moment of reckoning. What secrets would be unveiled, and at what cost? The battle had only just begun, flickering like a fragile flame amid the looming storm. With the truth within reach, Jenna could sense the shadows closing in. Would she dare to uncover what lay ahead, or would fear pull her back into the dark? Jenna's grip on the flash drive tightened as she felt the weight of her choices pressing down. The urgency in the whistleblower's voice echoed relentlessly in her mind. They're watching. The realization of such a threat brought forth a wave of self-awareness. Her life had shifted from a routine of hesitation to one of courageous risk. Let us find somewhere safe to discuss this, Lila suggested, her eyes darting nervously. The tension in the air was suffocating, and every dark shape in the park felt like a potential adversary. As they stepped away from the shadows of the trees, Jenna's thoughts raced. What lay on that drive? How could she use this information to not only help her mother, but also catalyze significant change? The gravity of each question prodded her. This was about tearing down a facade and confronting hidden truths. Would she be able to do it? They headed toward a nearby street, seeking a more public and safer location. Jenna's mind functioned like a finely tuned engine, mapping out the potential scenarios that could follow their meeting. Each avenue felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Jenna, I know you're excited, Lila said, an inkling of concern seeping into her tone. But we need to be strategic. There's a lot at stake, and it's vital to plan our next moves carefully. A flicker of irritation danced in Jenna's chest at Lila's hesitation. I understand that, but this isn't just about strategy anymore. It's personal for us. This is about giving a voice to those who have suffered. If we don't act decisively, we could lose this opportunity. The conviction in her voice surprised both of them. Jenna had moved beyond merely wanting to uncover the truth. Suddenly, it felt paramount to recognize the urgency of confronting injustice. They ducked into a smaller cafe, the atmosphere contrasting with the tension swirling in Jenna's mind. The sound of coffee grinders and clinking cups felt almost surreal. Just moments ago, the very idea of confronting powerful entities seemed insurmountable. Now, with the evidence secured, Jenna felt the thrill of empowerment coursing through her. Seated at a secluded table, Lila viewed the flash drive with a mixture of awe and worry. What's our plan, Jenna? She asked, passing the responsibility back. Instinct tugged at Jenna. She had learned to act rather than react. We need to review what's on this. After that, we can think about how to expose it. Maybe prepare a press release, or reach out to investigative journalists. Lila interjected, her brow furrowing. That's a big step. Aren't we getting ahead of ourselves? Frustration flooded Jenna's being. We can't afford to tiptoe around the issue. People need to know. This is bigger than us. The intensity of her emotions caught Lila off guard. But Jenna felt invigorated rather than intimidated. Doubt flickered in Lila's eyes, but there was no room for weakness now. Jenna had become a fervent advocate, a stark contrast to the woman who had once wavered at every hurdle. No longer would she allow fear to suffocate purpose. Let us go ahead and open it, she said, her voice low but resolute. As Lila plugged the flash drive into her laptop, Jenna took a steadying breath. They were on the precipice of transformation, not just in their own lives, but potentially igniting waves of change for others. As the files loaded, anxiety rippled through Jenna. What if they uncovered something unmanageable? What if they were not ready for the truth? Yet, amid the uncertainty, she sensed something else, a burgeoning confidence, the quiet strength of her spirit now lighting the way. We're going to change lives with this, Jenna whispered, feeling the stakes rise. But just as they began sifting through the files, a sudden flash of movement at the cafe door caught Jenna's eye, a figure draped in a hoodie, lingering ominously outside. Jenna's pulse quickened. Could it be a threat? A chilling realization struck her. They were not alone in this fight. Lila, she whispered urgently, do you see that person? The tension in the air thickened, closing around them like a tightening noose. Jenna's resolve hardened. They had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The truth awaited them, But it was clear that the battle would be fiercer than they had anticipated. What would happen when the secrets emerged, and who would be standing in their way? The answers held the power to reshape their reality, for better or for worse. Jenna's eyes remained fixed on the figure outside, brow furrowing as she processed the implications of their unexpected observer. The hoodie obscured the person's face. Yet something about their stance radiated discomfort, either they knew too much or they were biding their time. A thin film of sweat formed at her temples. "Lila, we need to be discreet," Jenna murmured, glancing around the cafe. The tables were filling. Patrons were absorbed in their conversations, largely oblivious to the undercurrent of tension wrapping around the two women. "Let us focus on the files now." Reluctantly, Lila turned her attention back to the screen. Yet Jenna could sense her anxiety rippling through the atmosphere, vibrating against Jenna's burgeoning determination. The juxtaposition of Lila's trepidation and her own resolve catalyzed something potent within her, an instinct to protect their mission like a curated flame, burning against the oncoming dark. The files flickered across the screen, filled with data. Internal memos, transaction logs, correspondence between officials. Each click revealed more layers of deception, a complex web intricately designed to obscure the truth. Jenna leaned forward, heart racing as she dissected the content with newfound diligence. "Look at this," Jenna pointed, her voice low with intensity. "These documents show intentional rerouting of funds meant for recovery programs. They're manipulating the numbers." A wave of siege-like triumph washed over her, accompanied by the dread of what it meant for those within each number. Lila studied the screen, eyes narrowing. "If this is true, we could be looking at legal implications for those involved. This isn't just about exposing wrongdoing anymore, this could change lives." The weight of it all sank in simultaneously as a dismissal of soft-hearted caution, and a step toward embracing the incursion of a profound purpose. With trepidation, Jenna pressed deeper, piecing together narratives from the data. Her adrenaline heightened as she envisioned potential headlines. "Whistleblower exposes corruption," emblazoned across the front page. But alongside that excitement lay visceral concern. Would their journey expose them to retaliation? The hoodie outside loomed larger in her mind. "I think we need to move," Jenna urged after a few minutes, pushing aside the exhilaration. Each tick of the clock threatened them. "Let us download what we can and get out of here. I don't like the looks of that guy. If he's here for us." "Wait," Lila interrupted, her tone sharper, more discerning. "What if he's not a threat? What if he's someone who could help us? If he's aware, maybe he can provide us insight, someone on the inside." Before Lila could finish, Jenna's instincts kicked into full gear. "We can't take that risk. Not now." There was no room for ambiguity. They had to act decisively. She needed to reclaim control before fear contradicted all she had worked for. "Look, I know you're passionate, but we can't be reckless. We need a strategy," Lila insisted, her voice trembling slightly. Frustration surged within Jenna, momentarily blinding her. Passion became a fire threatening to consume her. But a sudden deeper knowing crystallized through her chaos. She realized her reaction stemmed from a place of birthright. This journey wasn't just a fleeting cause. It was her legacy. The truth meant to be unraveled whatever the cost. "Strategy doesn't mean standing still," Jenna finally articulated with fierce clarity. "We need to expect resistance and prepare for it. Whatever the outcome, we have to stand firm." Just then, the door swung open, and the hoodie-clad figure stepped inside. Jenna's breath hitched, staying rooted as their gaze swept across the cafe. "Let us move now," she whispered fiercely. The stakes had escalated, transforming self-preservation into an unwavering commitment to fate. They were days, maybe hours away from a potential breakthrough or an existential confrontation. As Jenna's heart teetered between fear and defiance, she faced both the uncertainty of exposing the truth and the necessity of her own evolution. Would she emerge unscathed, transformed, or splintered? But a flash caught her eye once more, a familiar face, a woman in a crisp blazer just beyond the cafe's entrance, who, unbeknownst to Jenna, could link them to co-conspirators in a far-reaching scheme. The moment of truth shimmered tantalizingly ahead, beckoning Jenna toward inevitable confrontation. Who is she? Jenna thought, sensing the narrative shift once again as possibility merged with danger. They were at a precipice, and the way forward demanded an embrace of the unknown. Lila, we can't wait much longer. We need to decide what's next. Jenna fought to suppress the rapid beat of her heart as she looked at Lila. Every moment felt unanchored, as if time had elongated around them, fueled by the urgency of their mission and the looming uncertainty. "What do we do?" Lila's whisper was fraught with tension, eyes darting between the newly arrived woman and the lingering shadows of the cafe. A storm of ideas clashed in Jenna's mind, all demanding attention but none promising safety. Taking a deep breath, Jenna leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "We split up. I'll distract her. You grab the necessary files and let us meet at the back exit." In that instant, clarity emerged, sharpened by the stakes at hand. This wasn't just her passion. It had morphed into her reason for being, a driving force that demanded action. Lila's brow wrinkled in trepidation. "Jenna, are you sure? What if she knows something?" "Then we'll find out," Jenna replied with renewed conviction. That instant, she recognized the leadership budding within her, decisive, unwavering. She hadn't come this far to back down now. As Lila nodded, Jenna's heart pounded, not just from fear but exhilaration. Each step forward on this precarious path was laced with discovery, both of the truths they sought and of the woman she was becoming. It was becoming abundantly clear that she was shedding layers of uncertainty with each calculated risk. Jenna rose and adjusted her demeanor, channeling an air of confidence. "Keep your eyes open," she instructed Lila, who nodded in silent agreement. Her pulse quickened as she approached the woman outside, a stranger cloaked in authority. There was a determination in Jenna's gait now, infused with the understanding that her convictions were no longer mere flames overshadowed by fear. They were becoming an inferno, ready to ignite change. "Excuse me," Jenna said, her voice steady as she reached the stranger. "Can I help you?" The moment felt like a tilt-a-whirl, spinning her into an uncharted direction. The woman turned, a flicker of surprise crossing her otherwise composed face. "I'm looking for something," she began, her tone laced with calculated carefulness. "Perhaps you've seen it?" "What is it?" Jenna pushed, digging deeper to uncover the mystery without revealing too much. The woman took a half-step closer, her eyes scanning Jenna's face, judging her. "It's about the missing funds related to the programs around here." Jenna's stomach dropped. A direct link, a connection that could either be a lifeline or a trap. "I haven't heard anything specific." She managed to keep her voice even, uncertainty coiling within her. "But people have been talking. A lot of whispers about corruption in the background." The woman's interest peaked, her gaze sharpening. "Whispers?" Suddenly, Jenna's instincts screamed. She needed to pivot. "I can show you what I've gathered, but it has to be discreet. Not here." Before the woman could respond, Lila's voice punctuated the atmosphere behind her. "Jenna now." The urgency in Lila's tone snapped Jenna into action. Without waiting for the woman's response, Jenna pivoted on her heel and dashed toward the exit where Lila was already waiting, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Once outside, they slipped behind the cafe, breathing heavily. "Did she follow?" Lila asked, pressing her back against the cool brick wall, scanning their surroundings. "I don't think so. But we can't be too careful. We need to regroup and decide our next move," Jenna replied, her mind racing. The implications of their encounter loomed large. What did the woman know? Could she become an ally, or were they walking into a trap? Each moment brought Jenna closer to the realization that her growth was not just in the fight against corruption, but also in facing the inevitable discomfort of confrontation. Vulnerability was a two-edged sword, sharper than she had anticipated. "Jenna, that was risky," Lila cautioned, her eyes wide. "What if she knows our names?" Jenna squared her shoulders. "That risk is part of it. If we don't push forward, we'll never know how deep this goes. I can't walk away now." Each word became a declaration of her evolving identity. She was no longer just an investigator but an architect of her narrative. "Let us find a quiet place to decipher what we have and correlate it with any connections to her," Lila suggested as they began to move away from the cafe. Jenna felt a double-edged thrill of fear and exhilaration intertwining again. This was it, the pivotal moment. Each step was a calculated embrace of the unknown, the beginning of an empowered journey she didn't yet know how to navigate. With every heartbeat drumming in her ears, Jenna understood she was no longer the woman who merely sat in the background. She was stepping into her own power, aiming to unravel not only the secrets in the files but also the layers of herself that remained unearthed. Ahead lay the promise of more danger, but she also sensed opportunity. What else awaited them around the corner? Lila, what if we're closer to the truth than we even know? Jenna questioned aloud, her voice trembling with anticipation. The thrill of revelation glimmered just ahead, beckoning, and she found herself irresistibly drawn to the unfolding narrative within her. Under the flickering fluorescent lights of the small cafe where they had sought safety, Jenna's heart thumped with newfound resilience. The weight of uncertainty still loomed, yet it no longer paralyzed her. Instead, it fueled her drive, pushing her to embrace her role as more than just a daughter advocating for her mother. She was now a determined force for justice. Navigating the intricate landscape of corruption in the healthcare system was daunting. Each detail uncovered pushed her further away from fear and closer to empowerment. They had successfully evaded potential threats, but the fact remained this was a battle. As Jenna sifted through the strands of evidence collected over the past few weeks, she felt her former self shedding layers of hesitation. She could practically hear echoes of Mr. Wilson's encouraging voice and J.'s sage advice, both urging her to build her narrative and rally support. Lila, look at this, she said, pointing to a document on her now cluttered table. These funding reroutes create a pattern indicating that our only option is to go public. If we can align with some local journalists, we might finally bring attention to this. Lila nodded fervently, her earlier hesitations dissipating as she witnessed Jenna's metamorphosis. Jenna realized she was no longer just piecing together her mother's story. She was on the brink of catalyzing systemic change. Following a thorough examination of their files, Lila suggested they create a presentation outlining their findings to share with journalists, but Jenna had a more direct plan. Let us not wait any longer. We can't be stifled by formalities. I'll call those contacts we gathered last week and enlist their help to secure a press conference. Every word she spoke rolled off her tongue with an assurance that had once felt unreachable. In previous days, she would have recoiled at the prospect of commanding this attention, fearing response and retaliation. Now, every bold step felt just and necessary, validating her evolution from uncertainty to advocacy. Jenna's phone buzzed again. This time with a message from a well-connected journalist she had networked with at a healthcare policy conference. Can you come by the office? I have ideas on how we could expose this story. A wave of exhilaration flooded her. This was it. I'm meeting with him. In 30 minutes. Jenna announced, the realization igniting a sense of urgency. What? Right now? Lila faltered, concern flickering across her face. Absolutely, Jenna replied with clarity. I'm ready to dive in. If we don't act now, this uncovering could very well slip through our fingers. She felt her chest swell with a mixture of pride and audacity, the previously familiar pangs of fear replaced by a rapid pulse of responsibility. Rapidly gathering her materials, Jenna felt the world expanding before her. During the walk to the journalist's office, reflective thoughts coursed through her mind. She was stepping into a new, empowered persona, an advocate unafraid to challenge systems that drew power from oppression and misinformation. Each stride she took resonated with the realization that she was not alone in this battle. Meeting the journalist, Jenna laid out her research with clarity. Passion surged as she articulated the evidence. His face transitioned from skepticism to intrigue, whetting his appetite for the deeper story. As they discussed ramifications and strategies, Jenna's sense of competence solidified. She was no longer a passive player in her life, but rather the architect of her destiny. Days turned into weeks, and with each press statement, she felt, for the first time in her life, recognition and validation building a solid foundation under her feet. The publication of their exposé sparked not just local outrage but ignited wider discourse around the treatment of patients under the care protocols of the institution they were investigating. As response flooded in from other victims of systemic failures, Jenna harnessed their voices along with her OWNIT was by stepping boldly into discomfort that Jenna had created a ripple effect, establishing her credibility and purpose. And as people sought her out for support and guidance, she stepped confidently into the role of mentor and advocate. Every story shared with her further deepened her commitment, showing that change was possible when individuals found their voice against injustice. Ironically, initial fears lingered faintly in the corners, yet they transformed into a vigilant awareness, sharpening her resolve. The fear of retaliation became a reminder that she was an agent for transformation, an advocate committed to illuminating all who were affected by injustice. At the end of that transformative journey, Jenna stood on a stage before countless faces, delivering a speech that resonated truth and empowerment. Looking into the audience, she felt a radiant confidence envelop her. The same bills that had once felt oppressive now represented battle scars of perseverance. Not only had she spurred reform for her mother's care, but she had also lit the path for others lost in their own battles against systemic injustice. The applause echoed as she concluded, affirming her achievement not only as a daughter but as a powerful advocate who had confronted the chaos and emerged victorious, carrying the torch for countless others. The apprehension paved her path, and she had walked it with grace and courage. The world was waiting for you to rise and claim your narrative. She was a testament to that unwavering truth. You need to subscribe now to witness more inspiring transformations. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and put these empowering stories in front of more eyes. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Join us in the call for change.